Hey everyone, today we're going to take a look at the Marvel Legends 6-inch Gorr action figure. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe, or even hit that super thanks button. I appreciate all engagement. This figure, being an Amazon exclusive, does come with his own super box. And before we get him open, let's have a quick look at the packaging. He comes in the all paper, no plastic packaging, and he's got the Thor hammer logo on the top of the box. On the front, we see the render of the action figure with a bit of artwork in the background, and on the bottom of the box, there is some product information. Down to the side, we see more of that artwork with a really sinister smile on his face, and to the back of the box, more renders of the same action figure, including all the accessories that he comes with over here, more product information at the bottom, and finally onto that last side is the render of the figure in the vanilla pose. So let's go ahead and get this figure open. The figure is in a paper baggie together with his accessories, and they're all held in place by this cardboard insert. Out of the first bag, we see his alternate head sculpt. And in the main bag, we have, of course, the action figure itself. And not forgetting one more baggie that's contained on the side of the cardboard insert. And in this bag, we have his Necrosword attachment. The Necrosword is cast in a flexible black plastic, and you can see how soft and child-safe it is. The sculpt is quite sinister, with a lot of sharp edges, and of course that really iconic hollow section down the middle. There's light gray paint for Gorr's skin, and that's where you can see the rest of his hand underneath all that symbiotic organic material that kind of slides and oozes over his hand into that Necrosword. The sculpting is great because you can see a lot of that symbiotic material from the veins on the sword, and it goes all the way up his hand as well. What's cool is that you can also see details like those fingernails. This sword pegs into his hand with a simple peg, with no articulation beyond a simple swivel. And of course the Necrosword pops onto his right arm just fine. I should mention also that the Necrosword is sculpted to his right hand, so it would look a little weird if you were to pop it onto his left side instead. So now I'm going to take a look at his alternate head sculpt together with his default head sculpt. Gorr is obviously from an alien race, and you can see that in the exaggerated features on his face, like his small and deep set eyes. He's also got his nostrils up here with no fully formed nose. Plus he also has an odd shaped mouth with sharp teeth. Both head sculpts have really good sculpting work, and you can see that in the textures on his face, like the couple of vertical exaggerated wrinkles on his forehead. Those textures are also brought out with the digital printing paint technique. So we even get really sharp and precise paint applications for the grays that highlight the lines in his face. His deep set eyes have a hit of yellow inside, and that's surrounded by a shade of red. Once again, that shade of red is also brought out really nicely by that dark gray paint as well. The dark gray paint also brings out even more lines just above his upper lip, the sides of his face, and even on his chin. The white paint for his teeth are also really sharply applied, and once again that's also accentuated by shades of red for his gums as well as his lips. There are also two alien features that attach to the top on the back of his head, with a subtle hit of light red down the bottom, and once again that makes it also quite visually interesting. The alternate head has a sneer on the expression, while the default head is more neutral but still evil looking. And I also like how the light gray and the colors of his head stand out against the black hood. So this really brings your attention to his head sculpt, while keeping an air of mystery by all those shadows around his dark hood. And it's also a nice touch once you have a look on the inside of the hood. You can still see those two alien features sculpted hidden inside that hood. So the alternate head also pops onto the figure just fine for a nice different look with his hood off. And you also see how those alien attachments hang down the front of his body as well as his back. For his sculpt, most of Gorr is on the Grim Reaper or Wonder Man body mold. He's got a couple of new parts, which are his head sculpt, his cape, he's got a retool upper torso, as well as new hands and feet. Most of the figure is cast in a light grey plastic, with black plastic for his hood and cape, as well as his crotch piece. the black plastic cape. The black plastic cape has a couple of folds sculpted for where it gathers around his neck. And the front portion of that cape is also looking quite neat. Once again, also with a couple of folds sculpted in them. Once we come to the back of the cape, that's where it gets a little more organic looking. It's a part over here that sticks out and looks like it's flowing in the wind, while the bottom is sculpted also kind of flowing upwards with a couple of rips in them, and that makes the cape look visually interesting. It feels a little rigid, but because it's not that huge, it doesn't really obstruct most of the articulation in his limbs. Popping off his hooded head and his cape to have a closer look at his torso, and you can see that his upper torso is retooled because it now comes with a double ball dumbbell joint instead of the regular ball hinge that comes on the Grim Reaper mold. The rest of his body is covered in black paint to show where the organic symbiote material extends on his body. There's also a little diamond design feature on the front. The symbiote material also looks like it connects to a couple of nodes on his body, and those nodes are painted as circles with some light red or pink paint outside of those circles to have a glowing effect. The symbiote paint work is kind of similar to what we've seen on other symbiote characters like Phage. The paintwork is neat, and it looks fairly random and organic on his body. However, of course, in order to make this look much better, it could have been sculpted on. We see the same paintwork on his arms as well, with the glowing nodes over here. There's good sculpting work for his hands as well, looking at those veins and bones on the back of his hand, and there's also sharp paint applications for black on his nails. On the back of the figure is where we actually don't see any of that symbiotic paintwork. However, we can also see sculpting for a more alien structure of the muscle and bones on the upper torso. His crotch is a black plastic piece with paint down the front to match the rest of his skin tone. The same black paint is also present on his upper legs, connecting to those nodes once again, and moving on to his feet. They are sculpted just as well as his hands, with a really alien look to how the 5 toes are positioned. You can also see the veins and bony structure sculpted on, and that's topped off with black paint for his nails. For articulation, his head is on a double ball dumbbell joint, so it spins 360. The ball joint also affords quite a bit of good range, tilting sideways. He's able to look down that much and up. Swivel hinge at the shoulders that go 360, and they do go out that far. Upper bicep swivel for 360 spin. Double jointed pinned elbows for quite good range. And this is where I want to point out that his elbows as well as his knees are still pinned, even though on the renders he actually looks pinless. So that's a bit of a bummer. He's got a swivel and hinge at his wrist for 360 spin, as well as articulating in and out quite well. He's got a mid-torso ab crunch, crunching forward that far, as well as backward, and he's also got a waist swivel for 360 spin, ball jointed hips that go out quite a good bit, as well as no problems forward and backward. He's also got a thigh swivel for 360 spin, double jointed pinned knees for good range, calf swivel for 360 spin, a hinge at the ankles for some good upward tilt and downward tilt, and finally generous ankle pivot outwards and inwards. Gorr's articulation is pretty much Marvel Legends standard, so he's fun to pose, and the fantastic head sculpt, as well as that Necrosword attachment, really adds character to a standard body mold. And while his cape doesn't really restrict much of his movement, I think he could still benefit from a fabric cape that could be posable and made to look much more dramatic in action stances. Despite being on quite a standard Marvel Legends body sculpt, his new parts actually give him a boost, and he stands at almost 7 inches, and that's about 17.5 centimeters. I like that he stands a good size beside Thor and Loki. With his Necrosword, he also looks great beside Null. And here he is beside other symbiote-style characters like Phage and Carnage. For comparisons with other lines, here he is with some G.I. Joe Classified series. and some Star Wars Black series. Gorr seems like a rather plain figure, but has enough unique sculpted elements like his superb head sculpts, alien hands and feet, and evil Necrosword to set him apart from other Marvel Legends on your shelf. Sure, he could have used a posable fabric cape and sculpted symbiote patterns on his body, but this figure feels fun to mess around with and pose in hand. This could be the only comic representation of him that we'll get for the foreseeable future and is a worthy addition to your collection. Please like and share this video, let me know what you think in the comments below, subscribe to my channel, and even hit that super thanks button. Thanks for watching, take care and stay safe.